So I got a funny story time. I was talking to my older brother this morning, and we were cracking up because I brought up this story about a time that I worked at McDonald's when I was a teenager. He knows about this story because I told about this story a few times in the past, but it came up again this morning for some reason. And I thought this would be something funny to tell my YouTube subscribers. So it's not nothing bad or anything. It's just kind of funny, right? I've been silly and ridiculous my whole life. It's my personality. So I kind of just want to share this story to show you guys how sarcastic I have been my whole life. So when I was 16, I worked at this McDonald's, and I only worked there for about 2 months because it was just miserable, right? The only thing that made the job cool was that I only probably worked 4 hours. And, when you're a teenager, you can only work so many hours or whatever, a day or a week anyways. And I worked with a bunch of cool coworkers. So we all know how important it is to like the people you work with. Because if they're funny and all that stuff, it just makes the experience of being at work fun and much more tolerable, right? So they had me mostly at the front counter cashiering as a cashier, or they had me in the back washing dishes, cleaning the pans and stuff, getting the fries out the freezer. They had me on fries before, stocking, right? I've pretty much done every job, and I was cool with every job. The only job I didn't do was cook. They never had me on a cook. There was this guy named Damien, and he worked every day, and he was the main cook. Damien and a guy named Ricky. And they were my favorite people in the world, right? But anyways, I did every job pretty much, and I was cool with all those jobs. Until one day they put me in the drive-thru. Why the hell did they do that? So they put me on the drive-thru. They threw me on the drive-thru without ever training me on how to take multiple orders, how to do the multiple screens. I didn't know nothing about nothing. And they just threw me on there for whatever reason. So I was already pissed. And when I get irritated, I become extremely sarcastic. My sarcasm goes from 0 to 200, like that, when I get irritated. So the first customer came through. It was just one order. She ordered some stuff. I pushed the buttons, whatever. I was like, can y'all show me how to do this? I did it. Fine. There was one more customer that came through, had one order. I put their stuff in. I couldn't find it. It took me a minute, but I got it. Sent it to the front. No problem. A few minutes passed by, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. A guy comes through the drive-thru. He said, yeah, I got 3 orders. And I was like, we don't do multiple orders in the drive-thru. No, that's not what I said. First, I told my manager and one of my coworkers, I asked them, can they show me how to do the multiple orders? And they came and was trying to show me, and they was like, hold on, and they got busy and they went somewhere else. Nobody would really help me, so I got even more frustrated, right? So I told the guy, since nobody would help me, I said, well, we don't do multiple orders in the drive-thru. He said, what? I said, we don't do multiple orders in the drive-thru. So then he was like, what the hell? He was confused. Any one of us literally would have been like, what the hell is going on, right? This is McDonald's. This is a drive-thru. What you mean? So he was like, so what you expect me to do? I was like, well, you can give me one order. I can put it in, and you can go through, get your stuff, and then drive back around and put your second order in there. And it was about 3 or 4 people in the car. So they all bust out laughing. And I knew what I was saying was ridiculous. I knew it, but I didn't care because I was pissed off because nobody wanted to help me. So it just was what it was. I didn't want to be on the drive-thru anyways. That was my way of getting off, right? So anyways, they was like, well, I want to talk to your manager. I can't tell y'all how many times I've had people tell me they're going to talk to my manager at a job. I got stories for days. But anyways, so they're like, well, I want to talk to your manager. So I go get the manager. She said, what's going on? I was like, did nobody want to help me with the multiple orders? So I told them they got to drive around. And she was like, drive around? What you talking about? She didn't really get it, right? So she went. The guys, before they even finished their order, they just pulled around to the first window. And they told her in person, what was happening. And she looked at me and she looked at them, and it took everything in her not to laugh. So I'm sitting there like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't give a damn, right? So she put the order in, and she turned around. She sent them to the front, to the next window. And she turned to me, and she's like, you cannot do that. I said, did nobody help me to show me how to do these multiple orders? What else do you expect me to do? The only way I knew how to do it is one order at a time. So I told them to drive around and put their second order in, and drive around for the third order. I mean, what you expect? She just kept laughing, but she kept trying not to laugh. And then she finally said, yeah, you ain't gonna be able to do drive-thru. And I'm sitting there like, yes. That was my whole goal, was to get off drive-thru. Yeah, we're gonna keep you on the fries, or at the front counter, or in the back, mopping the floors, whatever. Perfectly fine. Thank you. Literally, that was my response. And I mean, like, what you expect, right? So I worked there another, I want to say it was about 2 months altogether. I've had some crazy customers coming in there. I remember one time a guy drove through the drive-thru on some skates. Another guy came through the drive-thru on a skateboard. They knew one of the guys that was on the skates, I believe. Somebody drove through there on a bike before. And I'm goofy as hell. So this McDonald's was in downtown of the city I live in. So that's where all the bums were, all of the like drunks or whatever. That's where they hung out at. And that McDonald's actually closed. It was only open for 5 years. And it closed because they said the customers were complaining that it was all types of weird bums that was always hanging down there, panhandling for money, panhandling for cheeseburgers and shit like that. So that it was too much of that going on. But I used to see people in the weirdest walking through the drive-thru, and I remember that they knew a few of the people, and so they would go ahead and give them the order. But the guy on the bike and the guy on the skateboard, and these were separate nights, by the way. They're like, no, you can't serve them. No, tell them you can't serve them. But I literally would be at work cracking up laughing at something the entire time. Like, the only time I can recall ever being super mad and irritated was the day that they put me on the drive-thru without training me on how to do the fucking drive-thru. But I ended up leaving, and I think I actually became a waitress and worked at a place called Ponderosa after that. But that McDonald's closed down like 2 years later. And I remember one time I was with my grandma, and me, my grandma, and my granddad drove to the drive-thru, and she asked for some napkins. And they was like, I'm so sorry, ma'am. We're all out of napkins. So my grandma was so annoyed. Out of napkins? And my grandmother is very soft-spoken and all that. She was. She could raise her voice if she wanted to, but she was still soft-spoken even when she raised her voice. But she was so annoyed, and she was like, out of napkins? She said, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard of when I tell you she was flabbergasted, she was like, what the hell, right? She never cussed or anything. But she was like, that's just like me saying, I want a hamburger. She never said cheeseburger. She always called it a hamburger, and we always, like, teased her for it. But she was like, that's like me saying I want a hamburger, and y'all telling me y'all out of hamburgers at a burger place. I don't understand it. And then as we're driving out the drive-thru, she said, this place is not going to be open long. 2 years later, they shut down. And my grandmother was totally correct. They only lasted a total of 5 years. I think I started working there within the second year of it being, no, the third year, I think, of it being open. Like, literally. I just randomly put in an application and got hired. But anyway, yeah, I've been sarcastic and goofy like this my whole life. So just so y'all know. But I just wanted to share that with y'all because I always talk about serious stuff. So I decided to share funny stories. And yes, I do got other like slightly or very like majorly funny stories to share with y'all. So leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.